They told you to chase her, to prove your worth, to win her heart like a prize at the end of some heroic quest. But here's the truth. No one dares to say out loud, the man who chases bleeds, quietly, invisibly, until there's nothing left but an empty shell with a fake smile. He runs after unanswered messages, after fleeting glances, after promises whispered and forgotten. His heart pounds like a drum lost in fog. But this isn't bravery, it's desperation. It's the slow death of a man who forgot who he is. At 2:47 a.m., he stares at the ceiling, scrolling, replaying old conversations like sacred texts. Desperate for meaning in words long gone, he believes that love must be pursued, that worth must be proven, that being a man means conquering hearts, even if it costs him his own. But he's wrong, deeply wrong. Epictetus whispers, "If you wish to be loved, begin by making yourself lovable." And lovability is not something you beg for. It's not sent in a text, not bought with gifts, not pleaded for through late-night calls and half-hearted emojis. It radiates, like the heat of an ancient fire, silent, steady, unavoidable. The man who chases too much loses himself. He becomes a shadow of his former self, a prisoner of others' validation, trapped in the echo of approval he'll never truly receive. And while he spins in circles, another man stands still. The strong man does not run, he does not chase, he attracts. He moves from center, rooted like a mountain, grounded like an oak that doesn't sway for every passing breeze. He knows that presence is louder than pursuit. That mystery has more pull than explanation, that the most magnetic men are the ones who are not looking to be chosen, but are choosing themselves. The weak man tries to buy time, affection, attention. The strong man knows time is his. Affection is a gift. Attention is earned, not begged. Let others run themselves into exhaustion. He watches, he waits, he builds, until the world can no longer look away. The man who chases loses his path. The man who stays becomes the path. There's a kind of man who cannot sit in silence. He needs the ping of a notification, the warmth of a like, the artificial breath of attention, just to feel alive. He scrolls, he comments, he double texts, not because he has something to say, but because he's terrified of being forgotten. His worth is outsourced, measured in reactions, replies, reciprocation. He's built no inner temple, so he kneels at every altar that offers approval. And still, he wonders why nothing feels sacred. He doesn't chase because he loves. He chases because he fears being alone, fears being overlooked, fears being ordinary, but fear makes men hollow. It eats away at posture, at voice, at purpose. So, he overcompensates, with charm, with flattery, with a desperation masked as confidence. But women can smell it, the fear, the need, the hollowness wrapped in borrowed strength. Because it's not desire that repels them, it's dependency. Man addicted to attention is no different from a man addicted to wine. He may smile, but his soul is drunk, staggering, uncentered, lost. Epictetus reminds us, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control, and attention is beyond your control. You cannot force eyes to look your way. You cannot demand affection. You cannot schedule respect. But you can become the kind of man who doesn't need it, who is not hungry for validation, but is nourished by discipline, by silence, by solitude. The weak man clings, the strong man releases. One begs, the other builds, and, while the world applauds the chaser for his effort, his soul whispers the truth. You are not becoming more of a man, you are becoming less of one. The man who needs constant validation has already abandoned his own. Before he was tamed, man hunted, not just for food, but for purpose, for fire, for meaning in the shadows of the forest. That instinct is not dead, just buried beneath comfort and distraction. The strong man still hunts, but now his prey is different. Clarity, discipline, legacy. He does not chase women. He chases mastery. He chases the version of himself that he sees in visions. Silent, sharp, unstoppable. While the weak man screams to be noticed, the hunter becomes a ghost, present but elusive, visible but untouchable. His silence speaks louder than applause. His mission carves paths where none existed, because the true masculine energy is not chaotic. It is directed, laser sharp, like an arrow mid-flight, not explaining where it's going, just going. He doesn't need to declare that he's focused. You feel it in the way he listens, in the way he moves, in the way he says no. He protects his mornings. He guards his space. He doesn't hand out his presence like candy. Not everyone gets access, because not everyone has earned it. And that is the difference between attraction and pursuit. The hunter is not cold. He is selective. He gives from overflow, not from emptiness. Epictetus wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." The hunter is free because he is ruled by no one. Not by lust, not by fear, not by the need to be seen. He does not run after validation. He draws it in, slowly, inevitably, and through the gravity of presence. And while others waste their energy proving they are men, he becomes one. A man on a mission doesn't need to chase. His path draws everything to him. A man's presence either pulls the world toward him or pushes it away. It's not his muscles, not his money, not even his words. It's something deeper, heavier, like gravity. And gravity doesn't beg. It doesn't announce itself. It's simply Igum. And everything around it responds. This is the law of masculine attraction. You don't chase. You become impossible to ignore. The weak man believes effort equals value. So he overcompensates. He tries harder, texts faster, talks more, and with every extra gesture he leaks power, because true attraction isn't earned by proving, it's summoned by becoming. You want to be magnetic? Then stop trying to be impressive. Start being real. Start being centered. The moon doesn't move toward the ocean. The ocean rises to meet it. That's gravity, that's presence. Women, real women, don't crave noise. They crave weight, stillness, certainty. Not the certainty that comes from arrogance, but from a man who knows who he is and doesn't need to explain it. He walks into the room and the air thickens, not because he demands attention, but because his energy has density, his focus is not scattered, his soul is not starved. He doesn't flirt with every pair of eyes. He commands through stillness, and that drives people mad, because the modern world is addicted to desperation, to availability, to men who stretch and bend just to be liked. But you were not built to be liked. You were built to lead, to carve direction into chaos, to stand firm in the storm, not beg for shelter. Epictetus wrote, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." The man who believes chasing makes him more desirable has never met his own gravity. He's still orbiting others, still tethered to outcomes, still performing instead of becoming. But the strong man, he sits with his solitude like a king in his court, not waiting for admiration, but preparing for the next battle, sharpening, refining, rising. And when he speaks, people listen, because silence preceded the sound. He doesn't enter with need. He enters with direction, with a gaze that sees through pretense, with an energy that says, "I don't need you to want me. I already want myself." And that is the rarest, rawest form of power. It cannot be taught, only earned in the fire of discipline, in the ache of restraint, in the silence of self-possession. You want to attract? Then stop chasing anything outside you. Start becoming something within you, and the world will move. He who moves from gravity never has to chase. The world shifts around his stillness. Some men enter a room, and everything changes, not because they speak loud, not because they look perfect, but because they carry weight, a quiet, unshakable force, like the calm before a storm, like a wolf who knows exactly who he is and sees through the noise. This is not charisma, not charm, not seduction. This is presence, and presence is earned. It is the product of solitude well spent, of wounds faced in silence, of rage transmuted into direction. Presence is the reward for the man who dared to sit in his own shadow and did not flinch. The weak man avoids stillness. It terrifies him, because in stillness he must face himself, and that reflection is often unbearable. So he fills the space with words, with gestures, with movement. But women and the world feel the difference. They feel when a man is centered, when his attention doesn't flicker, when his eyes don't wander. A man who is present doesn't need to dominate a room. He becomes the room. His energy is not loud. It's deep, subterranean, like a river beneath stone. And here lies the paradox. The man who wants to be noticed is overlooked. The man who doesn't need to be seen becomes unforgettable, because true presence cannot be fabricated. It is the echo of a disciplined life. It's found in a slow breath, in a still posture, in a gaze that pierces without trying. Epictetus said, "Man is not worried by real problems so much as by his imagined anxieties about real problems." The present man is not pulled by imagined outcomes. He is here fully, powerfully, and that makes him dangerous, because in a world ruled by distraction, A focused man is a weapon, a mirror, a force others cannot help but orbit. So stop trying to impress. Stop chasing attention. Stop filling every silence and start building gravity. Start sinking into your body. Start breathing like you own the moment. Because when you learn to hold your center, the world begins to revolve around. You, a man who is fully present, becomes impossible to forget, even in total silence. A woman is not a puzzle to be solved. She is a force of nature, fluid, emotional, expansive. She is the storm and the sun, the sea and the fire, and the masculine is the mountain that holds ground. Not to control her, not to tame her, but to give shape to the chaos, not by force but by presence. In her deepest essence, a woman does not want a man who obeys. She wants a man who anchors, not rigid, not cold, but still, because she tests not to punish, but to feel if his roots run deep. If he can withstand the winds of emotion without folding, if he is sovereign, not just available. The weak man reacts, he argues, he pleads, he apologizes for having a spine. But the strong man, he leads. He listens without shrinking. He loves without losing his edge, because masculine power is not dominance. It is direction. It is the sword that cuts through confusion, the clarity that holds space when everything else spirals. Women don't follow words. They follow energy. They feel when a man is centered, when he lives by principle, when he would rather lose her than lose himself. Epictetus reminds us, no great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me you desire a fig, I answer that there must be time. Masculine power is not hurried. It does not chase. It waits. It watches, it decides, because order is not loud. Order is the man who walks into her storm, not to end it, but to contain it, not to suppress her chaos, but to meet it with presence so strong she softens into trust. This is the sacred polarity. Not a game, not a tactic, a truth as old as fire. The world is full of men who want a woman's body. Few can hold her soul. To do that, you must first hold your own. You must be the temple, not the visitor, the guardian, not the beggar. Because when the masculine is true, women don't need to be convinced. They return to their nature as the storm rests against the mountain. A man who leads from grounded power doesn't control the feminine. He gives it a place to rest. In the end, no one remembers the loudest voice. They remember the deepest presence, the man who filled the room with silence, not noise, the one whose gaze stayed calm while others flinched, the one who didn't need to be noticed, because his energy left a mark without asking permission. That is the real power. You don't need to shine brighter. You need to burn deeper. A man obsessed with being seen will always live in shadows. Because when you chase attention, you become its slave. You bend, you twist, you perform, and each performance costs you a piece of soul. But the man who no longer needs to be seen is felt by men, by women, by the world. He doesn't seek approval, he embodies it. He doesn't ask, "Do you see me?" He walks in a way that says, "I see myself." That is the essence of attraction, to become a man whose presence is undeniable, whose silence is a statement, whose path speaks louder than his voice. Epictetus said, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly. Know who you are, then move like it, then speak like it, then love like it, because no amount of chasing, convincing, seducing will ever replace the quiet thunder of a man who has come home to himself." This world doesn't need more men trying to be seen. It needs men who have become something worth feeling. So stop performing, start becoming. Start returning to the fire within, and from that fire, build a life, not to impress, but to stand in. Because once you become that man, you'll realize you were never meant to chase. You were meant to draw in, not by reaching out, but by rising up. Be the man they feel in silence, not the one who begs to be heard in noise.